Hey, welcome back to the BVB podcast. My name's Jacob, joined as always by Carver, who's looking festive AF. You kept the antlers on this time. Just a nice little tease before, but I appreciate you that you're going to be rocking those the whole episode, right? You can't take them off.
That's the plan.
How you doing, man? How's it going?
I'm doing well. Yeah, it's nice to have a Saturday morning where you're not stressing out if we're actually going to get 3 points or not, so we can just enjoy the rest of the weekend. Doing well. How are you?
Doing good. It was a little busier week. End of the work week for me. Things got heated up a bit here in St. Louis for my work, which was good.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, so moving on some fronts, which is exciting and means I'm just getting more busy. But the off season is kind of weird, where sometimes I just feel like I'm waiting around to announce some fun things, and I got to do that this week. So that was good and that was exciting. But we're not going to talk about that. We got to talk about Dortmund. As Carver mentioned, Saturday. Whenever you're listening to this, we are recording Saturday morning. We're recording shortly before Leverkusen and Leipzig kick off. Bayern Munich play on Sunday. Just what I'm about to say right now is currently, as we're recording on Saturday morning, Dortmund in second on 32 points, just 6 points behind Bayern, who are on 38. That could change by the time you're actually listening to this episode. But looking at the table on this Saturday morning, right now, after Dortmund play the Friday match and win against Gladbach, I don't know. I don't want it. Maybe it's just your reindeer antlers you got on. We're getting ready for the holiday. I mean, it's the holiday season. It's almost Christmas. I'm feeling pretty good. Also, maybe because I don't have to stress about Dortmund for the next few weeks, because I think they are back on January 9th is the next game. But yeah, so I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling optimistic right now.
Yeah, maybe it is the reindeer antlers. Yeah, there's not a lot of wins in our last, 9 games, 3 or 4 wins, if I'm not wrong. We still continue to drop points when the likes of Leipzig and Bayern drop points, and we'll get into that with Freiburg. But at least we ended the year strong, clean sheet, 3 points. Gladbach are a team that Dortmund consistently are beating. So thankfully, we have a little less to stress about, and we can address some of these squad planning issues going into January.
On the last episode, I kind of took a shot at the Bundesliga a little bit. I mean, it's just so disheartening that Bayern is just leading by so much. And yes, they're probably going to get this 3 points against Heidenheim. But as it stands right now, I like the fact that we're only 6 points off. It's going to take a lot for them to slip up because they're just cruising. They've been cruising all year. But like I said, as I sit right now, it just looks a little better. And then obviously Leipzig, we're really tight with Leipzig. They could tie us on points and possibly go ahead on goal differential as well. But as we said, it does suck too, because we could have had another couple points in here with the match last week where we draw disappointingly away at Freiburg, gave up the lead again. I think on the last episode, I also mentioned the mentality of this team is a little different, but with the caveat that we have been giving up leads time and time again. We have way too many draws as we just hit the halfway point of the season. Too many draws and too many occasions have we given up the lead from and drop points from winning positions. So yeah, with that, let's talk about Freiburg, where we draw this one. This match 1-1. Again, Benzabaini gets the scoring started in the 31st minute, but starting with the lineup, Kobel in goal, Schlotterbeck, Chan, and Benzabaini are our center backs, with, of course, some rotation we have to do due to injuries. We have Rierson, wing back, on the left side of wing back, actually, with Couto on the right. Bellingham and Mecha get the start in the middle. Chukwuemeka and Silva, which I did say I'd like to see him maybe in that kind of 10 position, a little more creator role, gets the start there. Was not a great match for him, but then Guirassy up top.
Yeah, lots of changes in this one, really in the Gladbach one as well. It's the first time we've seen Guirassy and Silva start together. It was the first time that Dortmund has had 4 or more absences in the team as well. We've been pretty fortunate in terms of just injuries this season. There's been some knocks here and there, sure, but for the most part, we've actually been pretty fortunate in that area. And this is Benzabaini's last match before he takes his leave for the African Cup of Nations. Chukwuemeka starting for the first time in a while, bit of a mixed bag of a performance for him. Nothing bad in the end for him by any means. And then if you look on the other side of that, Freiburg missing Grifo and Best and their starting 11. So both teams missing some important players, both teams looking to push and end their year on a strong note. And this was another very intense match because of that. While it was tough for Freiburg and even Gladbach not to look too far ahead, but for both of those teams really to create much going forward, it was still an intense match. There were still, moments that decided both games, and the balance of thin margins were really apparent for both games as well. And of course, the red card changed this game here for Freiburg. Yeah, but in general, it was still a very intense match between both teams.
Yeah, and it's away, and so I think in some occasions you would take the away point, but in this occasion again, and because it's just happened time and time again where we give up goal, or we give up a lead, or 2 goals, we give up the lead and let them get back into it. Just on Benzabaini real quick, him getting the start, because we haven't seen as much of him lately, and I think early on he was starting as one of those center backs when we had a few other people out, so he was getting the start in center back. And I remember us saying, I think he has to stay in, like he's not playing the wing back role because we have Svensson, but he's been so good, even in that center back role, and he pops up with the goal in this one as well. And I was just like, man, you just can't. Maybe a couple seasons ago, I was kind of done with him and I wrote him off. But he's been able to, and he had a lot of injuries that year. But he's been able to. He can just step in and perform when we need him to, and that's what we get with the goal in the 31st.
Yeah, our defenders in general have been producing these past few games. Sula too, with his first cross from open play to get an assist in his career. In the Gladbach game, Benzabaini coming up with a big goal here, and there wasn't too much that we produced after that. In both of these games. Yeah. We score relatively early on, and this has been a pattern across the season really in general, and that's why teams are continuing to get points against us. We just drop off. Somewhat have a consistent pattern of having strong starts and get a goal in those first 15, 20, 30 minutes, and then we allow those opponents to get back into the game. We allow them to get a bit more active, a bit more control, and it comes back to bite us pretty much every single time. Now, again, very early in the second half, Kobel pretty much single-handedly costs us and putting Job under a very, very difficult situation. And he gets his red card. He's going to be suspended for 2 games now. And of course, there wasn't any malice in the challenge, but Job did exactly what he had to do in that situation. And then for the rest of the game, it was always going to be tough. There was going to be lots of defending. Freiburg had 72% possession in the second half. They were able to produce 14 shots in the second half, 5 of them on target. And like I said before, even though they weren't really in the game here that whole first 45, 50 minutes, it completely changed the game.
With Job getting the red, I know it's an unfortunate circumstance, and now he misses a couple games. He obviously missed the Gladbach match and misses the next one. I feel like he's just been finding his form more. He still hasn't been playing extremely consistently as far as like starting every single match. We've seen some good rotation, which I think has helped him. But I guess your thoughts on taking this red on him, and any downside to it or anything you see, any negative side effects other than we obviously just don't have him to be in there and rotate?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a big break for the entire team, but it does suck that he missed this last game against Gladbach when he has been picking up some form. I've talked about a handful of times of him kind of having some ups and downs. He has had a little bit more consistent spells of finding that form this season, and he's going to continue learning. He's going to continue growing. I have no doubts about that. This game I didn't think was bad at all, really, for him. He broke lines to advance our attack a handful of times. He had some really well-timed sliding tackles during moments of transitions to stop Freiburg's counters, and what was really unfortunate in the end to be put in that situation that Kobel put him in. Kobel, he ended up making one of the best saves I think we'll see all season here, but there was just so much defending, and I think we could have seen changes earlier again in that second half. I mean, Kovac, his game management continues to be a major concern for me. It's crazy that we say this against like every coach in the last like 7 or 8 years at this point. Like I said, the same thing against Terzic too, Shaheen. It's so bizarre. And I know it's very easy for us to see, we're watching on TV, we're seeing things that maybe Kovac and these coaches aren't seeing. But at the same time, we are watching the same game and we are seeing patterns of momentum and these shifts, and Dortmund just sitting back and defending for the entire second half. And you see Fabio Silva come off at the 56th minute for Gross. We're adjusting our system a bit, adjusting our shape, getting more numbers behind the ball. Then we don't see another change by Kovac until the 70th minute after Freiburg have already scored. There needs to be more proactive changes. Kovac needs to get a handle of these games more because, yes, you do not have that numerical advantage. Freiburg has a man up, but you can still relieve, pressure. And we can get into that but more because the same thing happened against Gladbach as well. But there just needs to be more changes because Freiburg, again, didn't really have anything going forward until that red card. And there could have been moments where we could have caught them out too. And we did have a moment or two in the second half. But overall, I think Freiburg total had like 20 plus shots on goal in this game. Over half a dozen, if I'm not mistaken, being on target.
Do you think one thing we always harp on too is like we just don't have the squad. We don't have like the depth. We don't have the players we need. We don't have the quality. So is this, we're seeing this time and time again as far as like we're not trusting the substitutions and the game management that coaches are having over the last few years? Is it purely, does it come down to the squad, not having the squad to where you're bringing people in, not necessarily to make an impact, but just because you just have to make a change?
It's multifaceted for sure. And we're some slim pickings on the bench, sure, but we need players, and I'll say the same thing against Gladbach. We need players that can relieve pressure, stay high up the field, hold the ball for a few seconds, and just pick out a pass. Because we're constantly into these moments where it's frantic one-touch football. There's no one that can hold the ball for more than 3 seconds. Guirassy is struggling in that and same area as well as of late. And, Bayer comes on in that 78th minute. Svensson does too, but both of those players are still struggling to play with the ball at their feet as well. Byers doesn't have the strength to hold the ball. His hold-up play is not there. And we're just playing more and more moments of transition if we're not just solely defending. And that's exhausting for a team. You're going to continue inviting more pressure. That's exactly what we saw in that second half too. I mean, Freiburg were quick to get many numbers behind the ball whenever we were having moments of attacking, sure. But we still have to continue pushing forward and try to persevere, because you're dropping points over and over and over. 4 out of the last 9 games, if I'm not mistaken, we ended up drawing because we were in a winning position and then a team came back and scored. So it's happening way too often.
We used to play nice one-touch quick football, and I like that you're like frantic one-touch football is way different. All right, let's move on to Gladbach, where things looked a little bit better. Obviously, we get the 2-0 win. Starting with the lineup, we see a lot of more rotation in this. You talked about the bench, and we see some kind of new faces on the bench, or guys we haven't seen in a while. Cole Campbell, who we touched on last week, who I guess I haven't seen everything going down with him, but I heard on the commentators mentioned that he had some disciplinary issues, and now obviously there has been talk of like him finding another club in January, whether it's a loan, whether it's a permanent transfer thing. He's a player we've wanted to see more of. I mean, you throw Duranville in that category too. We talked a lot about that last week, but he is back on the bench alongside Özcan. I think you see that with Bellingham being out. I want to talk roster a little bit and a few players specifically later after this, but I wonder if you're just thinking right now, like Özcan, like, is he a guy you move on? And I still believe like we need to move. Like there's a lot of improvement we can do, but that requires us moving on from some guys. And I think Özcan is someone who probably needs to be out in January. Like we tried to loan him, brought him back, and this is the first time he's been on the bench in a while, to my knowledge. So hopefully that's a spot where we can open up. But talking about the starting 11, Kobel in goal. Sula gets his first start in a very long time. Chan and Schlotterbeck are 3 center backs. Rierson, right-sided wing back this time, with Gross getting the start, and Mecha, and then Svensson on the left. Adeyemi and Brandt in those kind of dual 10 positions. Guirassy gets a start again up top. And Brandt boys, man. Brandt with the early goal, and you already talked about it, but Zula, high wages, yes, obviously. We have not gotten the production we need out of him, but he did step into this match after being out for a long time and had a fantastic performance.
Yeah, probably the man of the match for me, Sula. And he has these moments of like where he has long absences and then he comes back and he's actually able to put on a very, very strong performance. And this was the same here. And just in general, lots of changes to this lineup, lots of rotation these past few games. And I think that front 3, Guirassy, still up in the air. But I should say the 2 10s, that's probably the best pairing we have at the moment. Adeyemi had a very big stinker this game, don't get me wrong. But him and Brandt have been like the most consistent, inconsistent players on this team for that number 10 role. And Brandt continues his run of scoring form, great one-time finish there. Starting play on one side, finishing it on the other on the opponent's weak side with some overloads. We've seen that plenty of times this season across all competitions. Actually, no other team in the Bundesliga has scored more goals from a cross in open play this year, which is 7 times. So very strong finish from Brandt there. He was actually pretty quiet after the goal, but same as Freiburg, where we had better spells of possession early on. Lots of ball circulation. We were pretty proactive and just active in general moving forward. And then we score, and I'm like, okay, bet. We're usually always whipping Gladbach up. Borussia Dortmund have won all 12 of its last meetings, at least in the Bundesliga. against Mönchengladbach. No other club has managed to have that much of a longer winning streak against them. But same as Freiburg, we kind of take our foot off the gas, step back, and we allow Gladbach into the game. While they didn't have much going forward in the early spells, we allowed them to have possession, and they were able to find some moments as well to come back. And of course, they didn't end up scoring, but there were just moments of it.
Yeah, on that, I have FOTMOB pulled up, and where you see, like, obviously Zula has a really good ranking, and that's because the assist, and then really late on in the match too, he dispossesses and kind of sets up what is the final goal. Chan has a good performance. Schlotterbeck was a FOTMOB man of the match. Mecha with some pretty high rankings too. And I think that's where you see, like, because we had to rely on them, right? Like, it's good that we were with this, I don't want to say makeshift backline, but it kind of feels like it. We don't see Chan. We've obviously seen him a little more recently, but haven't seen him a lot over the last year. We know how we feel about him. And then Zula coming back into this lineup. I think we had the concerns with the injuries to Anton and Anselmino and what the back line is going to look like, but they stepped up. And especially when we're let them back into the match, when we're under pressure quite a bit, and the back line was really able to step up and keep us in this. I know Mecha had a really good tackle late in the match. I don't remember if it was on Reyna or not, but Schlotterbeck made it.
Was a great slide, yeah.
Mecha did get cooked by Reyna at one point. I was like, oof. But it was good that, like, we had to rely on them, and I was happy that they were able to step up. I was concerned with Chan a couple of times. First, when he went down in the first 5 minutes, I was like, are we going to have to make a swap here? And it looked like Mane was going to come on. And then, of course, he had this horrible touch that just went right out of bounds.
I don't care if we put a corpse out there. I am not playing a single youth academy player in this team.
The only other thing I have from this match, really, talk about the goal late on, but I love I know Adeyemi didn't have a great match, but I did love how fiery this match got. And it kind of started with Adeyemi getting that weird deflection, that shot on goal that almost went in, and then getting in the guy's face, and then just everyone yelling at each other. And that just kind of carried over. You just see these big tackles, and you see Schlotterbeck getting into it, and Schlotterbeck making fun of the guy who goes down after his bicycle kick. And I feel like I haven't seen that. Like, I haven't seen this just really, like, these guys be fired up too much. Like, I think Schlotterbeck always gets riled up, and Kobel is too. But, like, I love seeing that. And I love this match kind of getting in there. Like, you had this extra tension with Gio Reyna. Like, he wasn't at the cause of a lot of the stuff, but, like, just this extra tension where, like, you have this guy coming back to the club he's been at for so long. He gets a start and doesn't make that horrible tackle on him later in the match too. But I really enjoyed seeing that in this match, but coming out of our guys specifically, like, it was great. It fired me up.
Yeah, I think the guys know that they're wanting to end the calendar year stronger too. And you've seen in these post-game comments from a number of players now that they're very determined to do better and push more to get results against teams that we're not getting the best results against. And Schlotterbeck's like one of those, like you mentioned. Adeyemi and Bayer both just didn't have the greatest of games. Bayer did end up putting the game away, of course, but the one-on-one he missed. You need to see more clinical ability from all of our strikers in general. I mean, Guirassy too. He has not scored in 6 games now. It's been almost a calendar month since he scored. Now, he has not started every one of those 6 games, but I think at least 4 out of the 6 he started, and he has not scored in a single one. And not only has he not scored, but he hasn't looked great either. So this team is lacking some goals here going up forward. If it isn't Brandt or Adeyemi being on their day, it's hard for this team to really produce goals at the moment. And it exposes the problem that I mentioned earlier even more when you get to that 70th, 75th minute, and we're unable to hold the ball higher up the field. We're unable to retain possession, to relieve pressure, pick out easier passes. Instead, it's, again, that frantic football, always losing possession, playing in transition. Thankfully, Gladbach didn't have the quality to put away a chance. Kobel had another good save here, and we were able to actually catch them just spread out here at the end of this one, and Bayer put it away. But there just needs to be putting games away quicker.
Yeah, and we talked a lot about Guirassy last week and Silva coming in and having some decent performances. But then again, you look back at Freiburg, he was subbed off early in that match with the red card, but wasn't able to make much of an impact before that. But this is a match again where you see him come on, where Guirassy gets subbed out, Silva comes on, has some really good moments, gets the assist for the final goal. But yeah, what we really want to see is, like, when he gets his start, he's got to make something happen. But it is good that he's able to come in and sub in like that. That's just where it starts. So as a a player in signing that I wasn't too high on, didn't really care for it at the time being. I like his big goofy smile now, and I like seeing him out there, and he's got some personality, which is good. I feel like just when I saw him in the Premier League and stuff before, he's just a player like I didn't care for. It's like, you kind of annoy me, but now we have him. Like, all right, I'm a fan. Yeah, he looked pretty good in the. I can't say it in the black and yellow because he played for Wolves, but
yeah, I'm definitely eating my words with Silva so far. I mean, he has only scored 1 goal for us, sure, but he's exactly what we're needing when we do bring him on pretty much every time, and getting another assist here. He's such an unselfish player in general, and I love to see that from a lot of players, always looking to set up others. Of course, he's a striker at the end of the day, and he is looking to shoot, but he's always picking his head up and looking for better progress options, and that's often finding players that are able to actually score in the end in those moments. And that's exactly what this game was at the end of the day. It's a game coming down to moments, and Dortmund took those, and Gladbach didn't. Ending the season, ending the calendar year, keep saying season, ending the calendar year on a strong note. One thing that I did find just kind of annoying after the end of this game was Kovac's comments talking about, like, it was a deserved win. Very happy that we won. Obviously, we need to stay focused. But just kind of the end of this comment he had here, just saying this team certainly has the potential to finish in the top 4. And I don't know if there was anything after that he added to that. Maybe there was. But just he ends these comments, these press conferences on a regular basis, and it just annoys me that it just sounds like that's exactly what we're only aiming for. We've pissed away any sort of chance of having any sort of shot at silverware this season. And instead of trying to push to be the very minimum 2nd or 3rd, we have the quality to certainly finish top 4. It's like, no shit.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, I want to play a little game. I don't have a fancy display. I don't have photos. I'm not going to make Carver guess players and Dortmund players and where they live and play now, even though he humiliated me when
I did with you.
Yeah, exactly. So I have a few names that I just want to throw out here, and I want to extend or release is what I want the answer. And I'm just going to throw the caveat. The caveat is obviously if we extend, like, it's obviously for a lesser amount of money, right?
Sure.
Like I don't want to think about the wage aspect. It's like purely on performance and who this player is on the field.
I understand. There's some nuance there.
Yeah,
I got you.
Yeah.
I'm ready for it.
Do you want to extend or release? Is Brandt a guy you would like to extend?
If he accepts less money, yeah, and we do.
I already said that. Obviously, I already said that.
Just because 2 or 3 years ago, you could have said, or even maybe 2 years ago, you could have said no, because there were so many other players in this team that was producing at the same level, if not higher than him. You had the likes of, just like in a midfield sense, Sancho, Malen, Royce, Guerrero when he was in more advanced positions. All these players are putting up the pretty much same numbers, if not better numbers than Brandt. All on the team, all regulars. Now you look at this team, there's really no one besides Guerrero that's even putting up the numbers close to Brandt. And that's really sad. But Brandt has been on a very good run of form. He's wanting to obviously try to extend himself. And if he can continue this run of form, there's maybe a 1 or 2 year deal that I could consider for sure.
Yeah, and I think we even talked about it last year. It's like, yeah, if he could stick around if he can still give us those numbers. And you obviously see him as someone who will be in a transition phase, right? So, and I think right now, I do want to shout out Chaz, who was in our Discord, kind of backing Brandt in this after I did my big old Brandt boy shout after he gets that amazing goal. But to Chaz's point, I think he has been pretty consistent over the years. I think he gets a lot of flack that's maybe unwarranted. He's not.
I think it's warranted, but yeah.
I think he deserves maybe a little more respect than people give him. I think people love to hate on him. But looking ahead, if he sticks around, I do think Chukwuemeka can hopefully be that player who steps into this. And obviously, we see him get his minutes here and there. And he looks, God, he's just so silky on the ball. Like, he's so good in tight spaces. And hopefully he can kind of step into that and take over the Brandt position. But right now,
a lot of other players are not like that can operate in tight spaces. Adeyemi just puts his head down and sprints towards someone and fouls them. But we used to be a team that had players of that in abundance. And now we're really struggling to put a consistent starting 11 together with players like that. So if Brandt's looking to accept the role of being more of a depth piece, of course, get lots of minutes, but, he's not going to be always that starter. And hopefully we're having a better player than him. I would be open to that consideration.
I mean, I'd even argue that Brandt started the season as a depth piece. We weren't seeing him start, and he just kind of worked his way into this team because he's been performing.
Very true. Very true.
All right, the next two, I think we can go through a little more quickly. Sula.
No. Release.
Not even after that performance? Come on.
No.
All right. Chan.
God, I'm scared to answer this. I don't know how much the team's going to invest in other center backs. If we're releasing 2 of them and we're not going to sign any, that makes me very nervous. 1 year. 1 year.
1 year?
Being a former captain, for the most part, he still wears the armband from time to time. He has plenty of stinkers. I'm not trying to excuse any of that, but he has had moments too where he's organized some very horrific looking back lines as well. And if it's in the same sense with Brent, can he take a pay cut? Can he take more of a smaller role in the team? That'd be something I'd be willing to consider if we're not if we're going to continue going down this path of not investing in the back line.
Yeah, hopefully that's not the case. But yeah, I want to say it'll be an interesting holiday period and getting into January, but honestly, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be interesting regardless, I guess, whether we do anything or not. That'll be interesting too, and we'll see how we kick on. But kind of does it, Carver. You got anything else?
That was all the players you wanted to hit me with?
Yeah, kind of. That's why I only had these 3 players.
Okay.
That's what I was prepared for. I'm not prepared for anything else.
Yeah. All right, fair enough.
All right. Well, no, we appreciate you guys hanging out and listening. As always, enjoy the rest of your weekend whenever you're listening. Enjoy the holidays. Thank you so much for taking us on the road. Happy holiday season. And join our Discord. And that's...
Nice.
See you guys later.